There are three things that you must keep in mind before you start preparing for this exam. Exam is not difficult. The process is difficult. Can you tell me who are these two kinds of aspirants? One English medium, the other Hindi medium. Men, women. Who are these two kinds of aspirants? Those who give up, those who persist. The first and foremost thing is motivation. What is discipline? Keep your targets minimal. Third important thing then becomes guidance. Motivation has to come from within. You have to ask this question to yourself. Why is it so important for me to crack this exam? Hello, good evening and welcome to Unacademy. How many amongst you are writing the exam in 2024? Nobody? 2025? 26? Never? Have you gone through the syllabus of this exam? Have you gone through the previous year's question papers? Why? Okay, don't understand. There are three things that you must keep in mind before you start preparing for this exam, or for that matter, any exam that you wish for. The first and foremost thing is motivation. That is why I asked you this question. Why do you want to prepare for this examination? There will come a time where you will want to give up. This exam is not meant for me. I can't study 5, 6, 10 hours on a daily basis. I can't study these many subjects. My life is over. I was happy in a university. I was happy in a college. I was happy doing nothing in my life. But this is something that I can't do. This is where your motivation will play a very important role. Why I want to be part of bureaucracy in the first place. So even at that point in time, when you want to give up, you will not. Why? Because there is fire inside you. That this is the most important exam for my life. This is going to make my career. I can't give up, no matter what happens. Exam is not difficult. The process is difficult. And what is this process? You start preparing 1 year before the prelims exam. Then there is prelims in May. Then there is mains examination in September, October. Then there is the final personality test in March, April. And God forbid, if you believe in God, you don't clear this exam, then you have to start from scratch. So assuming that you will clear this exam in the first attempt, you still have to devote 2 years of your life. And during those 2 years, there will be moments where you want to give up. But you should not give up. And you will not give up if you are motivated. People say this is the world's toughest examination. Is it? Right? Yes, you said yes. So why is it the toughest exam? Because of the crowd. Okay, look at the crowd. Right? It's competitive. Why? It's a journey. Vastness. Okay. Great. Every year, more than 1 million aspirants apply for this exam. And there are 800, 900, 1000, 1100 vacancies. So if you look at the success rate, which is very poor, that is why we say, since there are 1 million candidates and the number of seats less than 1000, this makes it the world's toughest examination. But it is not. Don't go by these numbers. If there are 10 lakh people who apply for this exam, 4 to 5 lakh people write it. So half the competition is already over at the time of examination. Out of these 4.5 or 5 lakh aspirants, majority of them are writing the exam because mama ne kaha to de diya. My friend started filling the form, so I also fill this form. I want a government job and the most lucrative government job is the IAS examination. That is why I want to give it. My dad promised me an iPhone, a latest iPhone. That is why I want to write this exam. The real competition is between 75,000 50 to 75,000, maximum it is 1 lakh. 1 lakh aspirants, total number of seats 900, 1100. Now you tell me, is this the toughest examination in the world? It is not. This is better examination in terms of success rate as compared to CA exam. In fact, even better success rate as compared to NEET, which was recently conducted. So if this is the exam, we can say this is the NEET exam, NEAT. And not NEET. Clear? So this is not the world's toughest exam, but the process is difficult because sometimes you will want to give up. I can't study so much. I have to study polity, economics, geography, history, these many subjects which I have never studied thoroughly in my preparation process. This is where motivation will play a very important role. There are only two kinds of aspirants. Can you tell me who are these two kinds of aspirants? One English medium, the other Hindi medium, right? Men, women, who are these two kinds of aspirants? Those who give up, those who persist. And if you will not give up, you will clear this exam. If not this year, next year. But this is your dream. You don't want to give up your dream. So you have decided to invest 2 years, 3 years of your preparation time. And don't assume that this is something that you can prepare in 6 months or 5 months and then you will become an IAS officer. You have to invest 2 years of your preparation time. So during that process, if you will not give up, there is no reason why you can't clear this exam. So first is motivation. Second is discipline. What is discipline? Study every day in a routine fashion. Whether it is 3 hours on a daily basis, 5 hours on a daily basis, or 24 hours on a daily basis. Because toppers study 24 hours. Right? Right or wrong? Why? Toppers study 24 hours.
They keep thinking about UPSC, even in their dreams.
Nobody can study 24 hours.
Thoughts.
Not even thoughts. In your sleep, you should have no thoughts. So this is a myth perpetrated by the toppers themselves later. That either I studied 18 hours on a daily basis or I hardly studied 1 hour. Which means I was born genius, I was meant to crack this examination. Or I studied so hard, I studied multiple books, hundreds of books, that is how I was able to crack this examination. Clear? So reality is somewhere in the middle. Discipline means routine. Create a timetable and stick to this timetable. Timetable in the sense, early in the morning, this is the subject that I have to study and consistently I will complete the syllabus and jump to another subject. I have to follow a newspaper. I have to write answers on a daily basis. I have to take care of my current affairs. Whatever your timetable is, whether you want to study 2 subjects on a daily basis, 1 subject on a daily basis, whatever it is, stick to it. But initially, keep your targets minimal. Less targets. Because as soon as you achieve those targets, your confidence starts building up. And then you can slowly and steadily enhance and increase the targets. Because initially, if you keep your target high, you don't reach it, then you become demotivated. That is why you should also start with a subject where you are familiar with, so that you can easily understand those concepts, those topics, and that will help you crack this examination in the shortest possible time frame. So first is motivation, but don't go to YouTube for motivation. How do I motivate myself? Google search. How do I motivate myself? YouTube. Motivation has to come from within. You have to ask this question to yourself. Why is it so important for me to crack this exam? Once you're motivated, then create a timetable, create a routine and stick to it. And third important thing then becomes guidance. Somebody has got to tell you what to study. But then even more important question is how to study. But the most important question is what not to study. Because you are here, you go to Bharat bookshop, buy all the books, buy books dinner. Kya karna hai? I have to become an IAS officer. And you start collecting books. So your aspiration is district collector, but you become book collector. Please minimize your sources. Keep your sources minimum. Minimum in the sense 1 book per subject, not 3-4 books per subject. Because you will always, at the start of your preparation, you have your enthusiasm. You will say, I will study 4 books. You tell me 10 books, I'll study. So students come to me, sir, for Indian polity, should I read Lakshmikant, DD Basu, your class notes, Unacademy material, PRS legislative research, newspaper, is that enough? Say yes, enough. 2 months later, sir, only your notes and Lakshmikant, is that enough? Yes, that is enough. Right close to the examination, sir, only your notes. Will I be able to crack the exam? Now, what do you answer? So initially, students tend to waste a lot of time by starting collecting books, materials, and you start wasting your time, and then time is up because your competitors, it's a competitive examination after all. If it was an exam which you have to pass by getting 40% marks, anybody could clear this exam. But you have to score good and better than others. So that means you need a better strategy to crack this examination. And that better strategy means you have to limit your sources. Clear? Any questions as of now? Anybody? Any question? Why are you here? Yes. Then you should have certain questions. Two of the most important documents for this exam. One is syllabus. The other is previous year's question papers. Unfortunately, both these documents are neglected by the aspirants. I asked question before you came, I asked them the question, have you gone through the syllabus? Yes, sir. Have you gone through the previous year's question papers? No. Why? Does UPSC recommend Lakshmikant? Does UPSC recommend NCRTs? Doesn't. Does UPSC recommend the Hindu newspaper? No. Does UPSC recommend Indian Express? No. UPSC does not recommend any book, any newspaper, but it releases only two documents. One is the syllabus, the other is previous year's question papers. Why are these two documents very important? Listen to me carefully. Syllabus tells us what to study. What do we have to study for civil services exam? Polity, history, economics, geography, ethics, current affairs, right? Are you also preparing for the state civil services exam? Right? Isn't the syllabus same? Then what's the difference? And how do you know that for UPSC we have to have a holistic understanding, and for state PCS we need state specific information and knowledge?
So that's because in the syllabus they have written Indian geography, Indian polity, words like that. But if you see the state PCS syllabus pattern, they usually mention that Haryana geography or Uttar Pradesh.
Syllabus tells us what to study. But if you look at state PCS, if you look at one-day government exams, more or less the syllabus overlaps. What you have to study for UPSC, you have to study for state PCS and other government exams as well. But then what is the difference? That we come to know through previous year's question papers, because previous year's question papers tell us how to study. Not just how to study, what to expect. What do we mean by what to expect? Unless and until you know what sort of questions have been asked in the examination, will you be able to prepare for 2025, 2026? You should know why UPSC asked a particular question in 23 or 22 or 21, so that once when I am appearing in this exam, I can also anticipate certain questions. Why does UPSC ask these questions? The year was 2023. In prelims, the question asked was on Official Secrets Act. Why was this question asked? Their choice. They asked this question, right? Official Secrets Act was passed in the year 1923. Exam was conducted in 2023. This was the 100th anniversary of Official Secrets Act. These anniversary dates are important. So UPSC had to ask a question because it was the 100th anniversary of Official Secrets Act. So when you see this question in the examination, tomorrow you should also expect something. So when I'm writing this exam in 2025, an event which took place in 1925 may become important for my exam. That's number one. Number two, a question was asked on Chausat Yogini temple in Morena in Madhya Pradesh. That question was asked 2 years ago. Why was that question asked? Because art and culture is part of the Indian syllabus. That is why we have to study art and culture. One such temple is Chausat Yogini temple, so we have to study it. Chausat Yogini temple is circular in shape. And it is argued that it was this temple which became the basis for Parliament building. So Parliament building, the old Parliament building, was inspired by Chausat Yogini temple. Said, but old Parliament building was built by the British. But this Parliament was getting replaced, converted into a museum, and a new Parliament was being constructed. And newspapers did mention that Chausat Yogini temple is supposed to be the inspiration behind the old Parliament building. That's why this question was asked. The questions were asked on schemes, and those schemes which were in the news in the past 1 year. The question was asked, for example, in 2015. And this is where I'll tell you a very interesting concept called backward linkages. In 2015, a question was asked on Congress Socialist Party. Consider the following statements and which of the following statements regarding Congress Socialist Party is or are correct. Now, why was this question asked? Because this party was started by J. Prakash Narayanan way back in 1934. But why was this question asked in 2015? Because 2015 was the 40th anniversary of emergency. And at that time, Shri L.K. Advani gave a speech wherein he said, the forces which imposed emergency in India then are stronger today. So we might expect another emergency. So newspapers lapped onto it and said this is one way in which Mr. Advani is attacking Mr. Modi. So maybe he is saying that Mr. Modi will impose emergency. So UPSC had to ask a question on emergency. But UPSC is not like your state PSC. In which year emergency was imposed in India? Who was the Prime Minister when emergency was imposed? Who fought against Indira Gandhi during emergency? J. Prakash Narayanan. What was his contribution to India's history? In 1934, he founded Congress Socialist Party. This question was asked. And that is what we call backward linkages. Look at an issue that you are witnessing today and try and find out how is it related and linked to your syllabus. And the only two documents which you should consider sacred is the syllabus and previous year's question papers. Syllabus will tell you what to study. Previous year's question paper will tell you how to study, how deep to dig into these topics to understand what sort of questions can be asked in the examination. And now your point. What sets a topper aside from somebody who is unable to clear this exam? And for that I need to ask you one thing. What is the difference between prelims and mains? These are two stages of the examination that I know. Prelims is about MCQs, mains is about subjective answers, that I know also. Something else apart from that.
Prelims is facts and concepts, and I think mains is more about our biases and our point of view.
You can't be biased when you're writing answers.
I have a question about that also.
Okay. If you have understood the fundamental difference between prelims and mains, half of the battle is won. And this is where most people falter. You just randomly start preparing for this examination without any direction, without any guidance, and then you assume quick results. That won't happen unless and until you know the difference between the two. Prelims is about two things. UPSC will judge you, test you, whether you have the factual knowledge, whether you have the conceptual clarity. That is what UPSC is going to test you when it comes to prelims. Mains is also about two things. But in mains, UPSC will focus on whether you can elaborate any topic from the syllabus that we are giving you and whether you can analyze. And what do we mean by facts and concepts, prelims, mains? What is the difference? Which is your favorite subject? फंस गए. What's your favorite subject? Polity. Physics. I'm talking about civil services exam. History. Geography. History. So you have read history? Very good. A massive revolt broke out in the northern and central part of India, which nearly swept away British rule. I'm talking about the revolt of 1857, right? That revolt was concentrated to the northern and central part of India, right? Why was it missing in the southern and eastern part of India? Concept. Why concept? Because UPSC is not like your university exam. Whatever is there in the book, that question will be asked and you write it. UPSC is not like your university exam where answer is A, you are answering X, but you are writing X in 5 pages with the hope that examiner will look at my answer in 5 pages and give me some marks. And that does happen. But in UPSC you will get 0. That is why the topper has 50% marks. And if you score 45%, you are definitely amongst top 100. This is where you'll have to read in between the lines. Facts, concepts, that will be the focus of UPSC. So revolt of 1857, why was it absent in the eastern and southern part of India? Because those areas had already revolted in the past. Now when they had already revolted, there was a sense, there was an element of fatigue. Now we can't be revolting again because we just did that. That's why this revolt was focused in the northern and central part of India. But was revolt of 1857 a failure or a success? Now you have to analyze it. Whether it was a failure or a same topic, same subject, modern history, same topic, revolt of 1857. But in prelims the focus is different. Whether you have the factual knowledge, who was the leader of revolt of 1857 in Ara? Match the following type questions that can be asked in your exam. Conceptual, why was it missing in the southern and eastern part of India? And then in mains, you will be asked to analyze whether it was a failure or a success. You tell me, was it failure, success? Success. Very good. So you measure the success or failure in terms of outcome. What was the objective? To overthrow the British. Did it happen because of revolt of 1857? It did not. Because the British continued to govern India for 90 more years. In fact, after that, they concentrated and centralized the power in India. So by that yardstick, it was a failure. But in another way, it generated a feeling of nationalism, which later nationalist leaders would look up to. So if our forefathers could do that in 1857, nearly swept away the British rule from India, we can do that as well. So it became a perennial source of inspiration for later leaders of the nationalist movement. By that yardstick, it was success. So this is prelims and mains. And that is why you have to prepare for it simultaneously. You can't be first preparing for prelims, then once we will clear the prelims, then we will focus on the mains examination. By that time, the bus has already crossed. Facts and concepts for prelims, elaboration, analysis for your mains examination. I'll give you one more example. Economics. There are two terms normally used called FDI, FII. What's the difference? Even I don't know, I thought you will tell me. What is the difference? FDI, FII. Have you heard of these terms? Anybody? FDI is foreign direct investment. FII is foreign institutional investment. In a sense, a foreign company comes to India, invests in India by setting up a plant, a factory. When you set up a factory, you give employment to a lot of people as well. Why do you do that? Because your intention is to stay in India for a longer period. Because you are not here just to disappear tomorrow. Your intention is to reside in India for a long time. That's how you set up a plant, a factory in India. So by that logic, we say FDI has long-term impact. It is fruitful long-term for the people of India. But FII is When foreign companies, they invest in the shares of Indian companies, they invest in the stock market in India. But by that logic, it is short term, because as soon as they see the prices of shares increasing, they will withdraw the money and disappear. So FDI is considered to be stable. FII is considered to be short term. Maybe these statements will be asked, but the UPSC will exchange it, interchanges. Saying FDI is short term, FII is long term. That may be asked. But can you tell me which was the biggest FDI investment in India? Biggest investment. Biggest FDI investment in India. A foreign company coming to India invested massively in India. Amazon, okay. British East India Company came to India for trade and started capturing political power and did not leave India and ruled India for centuries. That is the evil side of FDI. That is why in India we have something called cap system. In this segment, in this sector, 100% FDI is allowed. In this sector, only 20% is allowed. In this sector, zero FDI is allowed. So FDI is like a matchstick. You can use it to burn the house. You can use it to light the house as well. Write an essay on this topic. So prelims is about two things, facts and concepts. Mains is about elaborating. Mains is about explaining, critical analysis of the topics. And I'll give you an example for polity. Now that is your favorite subject, that is my favorite subject as well. And I think polity is the most important subject for this exam. Do you know why? Why? Because I teach that subject. Okay. In polity, there is something called basic structure. What is that basic structure? Yes.
The Parliament cannot amend certain aspects of the Constitution, which is basic in nature, like judicial review.
Basic structure means basic. But what is that basic?
Sir, it is not defined by the Supreme Court.
Okay.
Supreme Court interprets what is
Initially, when the Constitution was made in 1950, there was no limitation on the Parliament. Parliament could have changed anything in the Constitution. Fundamental rights given, taken back, converting any part of the Constitution, deleting anything, removing anything, adding something to the Constitution, there was no limit. In 1973, a 13-judge bench of the Supreme Court said, no, Parliament, you have a limitation. You can change anything in the Constitution, any provision in the Constitution, but you cannot change basic structure. And what is that basic structure? We don't know. Why? Because that is for the Supreme Court to decide. Supreme Court will say what is basic structure. And Supreme Court has said parliamentary democracy is basic structure. Judicial review is basic structure. Rule of law is basic structure. Article 21 is basic structure. All these are part of the basic structure. And related to basic structure, there is a concept called judicial review. You have written answers, you give it to the teacher, sir, please review it, whether the answer is good or bad. Similarly, when government makes a policy or parliament makes any law, this matter can go to the court saying, please review this, whether this is in agreement with the Constitution or not, whether we have violated the Constitution or not. You can challenge whether Citizenship Amendment Act is constitutional or not, good, bad, ugly law. That is the power of the judiciary. It can review the acts passed by the parliament. It can review the actions of the executive. But is judicial review mentioned anywhere in the Constitution? Then how is judiciary doing judicial review? Is judicial review mentioned anywhere in the Constitution? Yes, no, maybe. That's the difference, prelims and mains. Clear? Now tell me, what are the other questions that you have? Let this not be a monologue where I am talking all the time. Whatever questions you have, tell me. Sometimes there is an element of luck. but you should not focus too much on it, otherwise you will go mad. I am lucky, I am unlucky, where is my luck? I will change the lines on my hand. But what sets them apart? First, you should have knowledge. And what is this knowledge? Complete the syllabus. And what sort of syllabus? Static portion plus current affairs. If you will watch on TV somebody driving a car and you have read 10, 20, 30 pages of how to drive a car, and then I will give you a car outside this building, will you be able to drive it? Not possible. You are also playing on the PlayStation or Xbox, whatever, and you are driving McLaren, Ferrari, and I will give you a simple Maruti 800. Will you be able to drive it? Why? Practice. So when you have gained knowledge, then you need to practice. Practice how? Prelims, mocks, mains, answer writing. Because unless and until you apply your knowledge, how would you know whether I am on the right track or not? This is a 3-stage exam: prelims, mains, personality test. What was the cutoff in last year's prelims exam? 75. What is the difference between somebody scoring 75 and somebody scoring 199.75? Suppose you get 75, you are writing the mains exam. He gets 199.75, he is also writing the mains exam. Then what's the difference? No. There is no difference whatsoever, because these marks will not be counted. It is only qualifying in nature. So whether you are scoring 75 or 199.75 doesn't matter. Both of you will be at the same level when it comes to mains exam. And prelims is all about MCQs. Clear? But in mains, you have 1750 marks. 4 GS papers, 1 essay paper, 1 optional subject, 1750. And mains is all about answer writing. If I tell you today, write an answer on judicial review, maybe you won't be able to answer. Maybe you won't be able to write in 20 words or 50 words. But 3 months later, once your coaching is done, once you have completed the polity lectures, you can write 500 words on judicial review or 1000 words on judicial review. But UPSC is asking you, write an answer in less than 250 words. Write an answer in less than 150 words. Now, whatever knowledge you have to restrict it to less than 250 words. That lies the challenge. Whatever knowledge I have, how can I reduce it to under 250 words, under 150 words? And that you will solve only by practicing answers. That's the difference. So the difference is they practice answer writing on a regular basis and they are experts in answer writing. Not experts we can say, but they have been very thorough with answer writing. Answer writing is what differentiates a top 100 candidate from the bottom 100 candidate. Because first is getting knowledge, then you have to evaluate your performance as well by taking as many mocks as possible, by writing as many answers as possible. Prelims, mains, both. That's the difference. And then we have personality test, which is only for 275 marks. So the marks that you're scoring in mains, that will determine whether you will be clearing this exam and what will be your rank. Clear?
How do I develop this? How do I
So,
remove bias from my people?
any topic that you study, you have to look at arguments in favor as well as arguments against. For example, a question was asked, government has made changes to the laws such as Unlawful Activities Prevention Act and National Investigation Agency Act. Justify that and also tell us the concerns raised by human rights organizations. So any topic that you study, you should study it from both perspectives. What are the advantages of this scheme? What are the disadvantages as well? What is the good thing about this policy? What is the bad thing about this policy? And depends upon what sort of question is asked. If you're asked to critically evaluate it, you have to mention both. If you're asked to justify it, you have to mention one argument. Comment also, you give both arguments and then give your conclusion, which should be optimistic. For example, if you are told, suggest innovative measures we can take to tackle corruption, you should not say, is desh ka kuch nahi ho sakta. Right? You have to be optimistic that despite the challenges, despite the flaws, we can still do better and eradicate corruption from the society through these means. Take a look at the major sources that people follow. Lakshmikant for polity, Rajiv Ahir for history, Nitin Singhania for art and culture. Just one book per subject and stick to it. Our Parliament by Subhash Kashyap, not required. I don't think that's required. NCRT, yes. If you are starting on your own, you should do it. But if you have joined a coaching class or you're planning to join somewhere, then there is no need, because I think all coaching institutes will cover it from scratch. Have you joined any coaching class? Or are you planning to join any coaching class? Okay. Then follow whatever teacher tells you. For example, I'll tell you, focus on my class notes plus Lakshmikant for revision. For example, if we are studying governor today and same topic you revise from Lakshmikant, but Lakshmikant will help you only for prelims. For mains, my class notes plus newspaper, that is more than enough. Nothing more than that. That is there is one subscription called Plus. वो अगर आपके पास है तो आप देख सकते हैं. What are you studying?
Political science.
Political science. Then political science would be a good optional.
Sir, very fast.
Very vast, but if you are liking it, doesn't matter that the syllabus is vast. There are 4 things that you have to keep in mind. First is interest. You should be interested in that subject. If you're not interested, after 2 weeks you will change another optional, then you will change another optional. But interest alone will not help. Interest plus syllabus should be short. That also will not help. Interest, syllabus should be short, that subject should be scoring as well. And fourth, good coaching should be made available. Because optional you can't study on your own. I can say that confidently because there is no conflict of interest that I am teaching optional, you come and join my class. I don't teach optional. So that is why I can say it openly. Without coaching, you can't do that. Because UPSC tells you that this optional subject questions will be 1 standard higher than graduation, 1 standard lower than post-graduation. But UPSC is lying. The standard is mostly post-graduate level, which normally takes you 2 years to complete. And here we expect you for this exam, you should complete it in 3 months, 4 months. Is that logically possible? That's not possible. So the best way is join a class, get the syllabus done as quickly as possible, focus on answer writing, give the exam. Yes, you should ideally look at 2-3 papers, take a look at their syllabus and previous year's question papers and see where you are comfortable. और जहाँ पर comfortable हो वो ले लो. All the best. Thank you.